Okay, I will start right away. I know I'm late, so I'm just gonna plug in my headphones. But in the meanwhile, how has everybody been? Any questions from the last session? कोई क्वेश्चन नहीं है, सब समझ आ गया? मैं पूछूं क्वेश्चन?
Ma'am, this is trick question. I'm not going to answer that.
हाँ तो ट्रिक क्वेश्चन तो है ही. कोई कुछ बोल नहीं रहा, क्वेश्चन तो हम ही पूछेंगे.
नहीं मैम, एक्चुअली लास्ट सेशन वाज अमेजिंग और उसमें कुछ बहुत ही ज्यादा कुछ सीखने को था. आई एम तो स्टिल कैचिंग अप. आई इवन मैम आई सेंट अ फ्यू क्वेश्चंस टू यू एज. आप अगर व्हाट्सएप देखेंगे तो मैं चेक
हाँ.
करके बाद में बता दीजिएगा, बिकॉज देयर वर सो मेनी थिंग्स टू लर्न, सो मेनी थिंग्स टू रीड अबाउट. सो इसलिए आंसर मैम, योर वॉइस इज नॉट कमिंग मैम. आई थिंक सो मे
अब
आपको
आ रहा है?
एडजस्ट कर. हाँ जी, अब बेटर है.
हाँ, I just changed my 1 second.
जी.
हाँ जी. So let's then not waste any time and let's begin with today's session. One of the things that we have not kept in today's session is the content from the book does not have the concept of learning culture. मगर मुझे ऐसा लगा it's an important section that we should cover. So I've tried to make the PowerPoint presentation that I have with enough information, and we will have some discussions around it. And I hope that will be contributive for everybody. But in the meanwhile, let me bring up my screen. And guys, questions are still open. You can ask questions if you would like to ask any, okay? All right. Share. Can everybody see my screen?
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Perfect. I am putting up the presentation mode, and we are going to talk about learning culture today. Okay. So what is learning culture? Can somebody try and make an attempt to explain what a learning culture is?
An organization where learning is something which is part of the system, where they promote learning and growing together.
Okay. When you say they, who do you mean they promote learning culture?
Organization as a whole, which is actually in the part of the system that has been there. And HR definitely drives it on a bigger scale.
Okay. What else? Any other attempts?
Ma'am, I believe peer learning is also an important element to the culture, the learning culture.
Okay. Peer
in an
learning,
organization.
excellent. What else? You guys are missing out a very important concept of learning culture.
Yeah, when learning is actually involved into day-to-day process. So it's not only the once-off event. Every day, actually, the people are learning. So then it becomes a part of the culture.
So who promotes that? Who promotes that um, day-to-day learning culture? Who promotes it?
The management.
As an individual, as well as
Everyone,
management, both are responsible.
management, employees, and the top tier management, while even strategizing that culture has to be built.
It's
Word
that.
बोल दो मुझे please. Management तक पहुंच गए हो. What is the word we want to say?
It's part of the philosophy
Leadership.
of the organization and
Leadership.
Thank you. So the leadership team is the one who drives the learning culture. Without their okay, we learning experts, no matter how much we try, we will not be able to drive a learning culture in an organization. Okay. So first of all, let's understand the characteristics of a learning culture. So anybody wants to say, for example, you said continuous learning, peer-to-peer learning, और एक आध बताओ, उसके बाद I will show a graphic. First of all, let's understand the objective. Sorry. Let me first bring up the screen again and first show you what are the objectives of a learning culture. Oops. Objectives of a learning culture. So objectives of learning culture is increasing employee engagement and morale, reducing employee turnover, upskilling or reskilling of team members, planning for new growth opportunities, improving productivity, increasing agility, and general workforce planning. Okay, these are the objectives of having a learning culture. Now, what are the characteristics of a learning culture? Let's look at that. Some of them you already said. knowledge sharing, to peer learning, collaborative learning culture, peer-to-peer learning, room for innovation, effective communication, mindset of lifelong learning. And then there is forward-thinking leadership. Quite a few of them have been covered. So I now want to take a pause, and you know my style. I'm going to stop and I'm going to hash some of these items. But before that, who can tell me what is the difference between continuous learning and lifelong learning? बोलो बोलो. Continuous learning and lifelong learning. क्या फर्क है?
I'm just taking a wild guess. You always trick us with these terms.
I love it.
Upskilling, reskilling, all kind of skilling. Anyway,
हाँ.
I feel so continuous learning is mostly related. Maybe in an organization, when we are in an organization, so वहाँ पे जो learning हो रही होती है हर दिन वो continuous हो गई. Lifelong, I think so, is both personal and professional. कि हम lifelong अपनी personal agendas, अपने personal goal पे क्या क्या सीखना चाहते हैं या क्या सीखते रहते हैं, हमारा क्या motivation है. That's the guess for me.
Okay. Not a bad guess.
Continuous,
Anybody else?
yeah, continuous is more of a habit. So when you generate, when you make people habit of learning and growing,
Hmm.
that's become a continuous learning throughout the life. For example, we guys are studying here. It's one of the example that we want to upgrade on our levels or whatever. So that's a continuous learning.
Hmm.
Yeah,
So,
I think
This continuous
go
learning
ahead.
is
Hmm.
basically related to professional or career development.
Hmm.
And lifelong learning is basically our personal growth, or what Shivani said, that related to your knowledge or your intellectual curiosity kind of stuff.
So let me now ask another question. तो नॉर्मल लर्निंग और कंटिन्यूअस लर्निंग में क्या फर्क है? मुझे तो नहीं समझ आ रहा.
See,
लर्निंग तो
continuous.
लर्निंग है.
Yeah,
I
this
think
is Moti here, man.
Hmm.
See, what I feel is continuous learning has to be there, but the continuous learning pertains to certain functions like research. They have to do continuous learning because what is updation that is happening, that is required.
इनपुट
Re-
इनपुट 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 पे फर्क है. इनपुट बताइए. थिंक ऑफ इट, थिंक ऑफ इट. लर्निंग इज हैपनिंग राइट नाउ. वी आर डूइंग लर्निंग. कंटिन्यूअस लर्निंग के इनपुट क्या होता है? व्हाट इज द इनपुट?
Skill development, ma'am. Skill development.
No. What else?
when you are self-motivated, then you are actually part of the lifelong learning.
अच्छा, एक बात बताओ. लास्ट क्लास में हमने लास्ट टॉपिक क्या किया था? व्हाट वाज द लास्ट टॉपिक वी डिड इन द सेशन? फटाफट खोलो मटेरियल. व्हाट वाज इट? How many people have the material? People are like, oh shit, we don't even have the material.
I didn't attend the class even, so excuse me on that.
Okay, how many people are there? There's 29 people. किसी के पास तो material होगा. Last time, what did we finish on? That will give you an idea. What was the last thing we discussed in the previous session? We spoke about the feedback loop, right? When we spoke about the feedback loop, we also spoke about the various characteristics of a good feedback. Okay? So when we talk about feedback, is it always for the learner, but is it also for the trainer, the training department, the course content, etc., etc.? It's
It is
both
both
ways,
ways.
right? When we talk about continuous learning, we are indicating that every time you finish a training program or a training intervention or a learning initiative, there is certain amount of work that you will do when you go back to your work environment on the job. Based on the application of the skills, there will be some things that you'll realize, oh, I went for my training session or this initiative with 3 things that I wanted to fix. 2 of them got fixed. 1 of them is still not fixed. And now I have realized that there are 2 other things that I can actually do better. So when that input goes back to the training department for creating a newer learning initiative, then what happens? It's a continuous improvement loop. Does it make sense? So when we talk about continuous learning, it is about improving an iterative practice of improving your learning practices on a regular basis for the organization. And this is where I am making you at the center of learning, the trainer. What does it mean for the trainee? It means that I am treated with new treats every time I go back to training. I'm not going to be run through the same syllabus, same content every time. What is going to happen is every time I'm nominated for a training or a learning initiative, I will learn something new, which number one is relevant, number two is bite-sized, number three is applicable on the job. Continuous learning makes a workplace a great place to work. Continuous learning makes sure your employee turnover is low. Continuous learning makes sure that you're excited to go to work, because there is somebody who is continuously catering to your learning needs. When you look at talent levers, and this is what human resources people will talk about, when you look at talent levers, what are talent levers? Does anybody know what are talent levers? This is slightly off topic, but you need to know. What is a talent lever? Can anybody take a guess? Everybody very quiet today. Talent lever. Lever?
When you attract, when you when you attract your talent.
Yes. Attracting talent is not a lever, it's an activity which is a part of the talent lever, is talent acquisition. How do you
Talent
acquire
acquisition.
talent? How do you acquire talent? What are the levers to acquire talent?
The learning is development is the one part to attain and require the talent. Hiring and resourcing is also a one part to
Hiring resourcing में रुकते हैं. Hiring resourcing में, how are the three ways that you, so I am a department head. ठीक है? I come and tell you, I need these resources. I got a new client. I need to service this client. How will you get me people? What are the three ways you can get me people? I've given you a hint. Three ways. How will you get me people?
So we'll review the job roles and responsibilities.
Yes. Then?
And then based on that, we will be defining, okay, what we need from, and then we start approaching to the agencies who can support into the hiring processes.
So वो हो गया buy. So write down.
Buy.
This is not there in your content. Buy. So
Yeah.
talent lever is buying talent. This is buying from the market.
Yeah, this is
Then,
buying talent. You're nurturing the talent as well within the organization.
no, but that's the second lever. That's borrow. So Tina
That's
is
borrow.
in a different department and she's perfect for the role.
Yeah.
ठीक है, तो you will go to your departmental head and say, sir, इतने कम time में it's going to be difficult to get somebody from outside, which is like buying talent from outside. Why can't we borrow her for 3 months?
Job
And for
rotation.
borrow, you have to have cross-skilling. Do you remember we spoke
Yeah.
about upskilling, reskilling, cross-skilling? This is where cross-skilling will come into the picture. So buying will take you time. Job description, interview, screening, the notice period, and then the resource will come to you. But this gentleman requires the person today. So you get Tina for 3 months till the time the resource comes. Okay? So you have buy, you have borrow. What's the other one?
Develop.
Is it build?
Build. Build means within the organization, you are going to get people who are semi-baked, you know, half ready, not full ready, half ready, and you develop them. You nurture them. But is it going to be relevant for this person? Abhi nurture karna shuru karenge, so will we with this person be able to meet his resource requirement?
No.
It's too late, right? What else can you do?
We can actually
is-
create a talent pipeline.
You can create a talent pipeline. बहुत बढ़िया बात है. It's all long term. Short term बताओ, आज चाहिए बताओ क्या करोगे?
We can hire people from a competitive organization.
You can hire. Again, notice period. Time लगेगा ना आने में. You are very close to it, by the way. There is one other thing. Borrowing within the organization and borrowing from,
Competitors.
and how will you borrow them?
You pay a high package and take the
Lucrative
That
thing.
only borrow, that is why.
That's why. Freelancing, got it. Pradeep, you got it. Freelancing. You get contractors. You get contractors on hire. ठीक है? So just like Tina is an internal contractor, she's coming from a different department to help you for 3 months, stabilize operations. जब तुम्हारे resource आ जाएंगे, Tina will leave. So there is the buy model, there is the build model, and then there is the borrow model. Borrow model is inter-department or external market. Your build model can be you getting semi people, not so ready people to nurture them and grow them, or you cross skill people. Okay, and buy is buy, pure buy. You poach people from competitors. That's the easiest form of buying. And if your competitors have a no compete with you or something else, then you simply pick up people from similar industries so that you can bring them in and you can apply them onto the job. Does it make sense, everybody?
Yes.
Now, can somebody
Yes.
tell me where does continuous learning fit into this? And why are we talking about it here?
Into the build section.
Build
Into
section,
the
ma'am.
build section. And also, when the new people will come, उनको करना है ना? उनको भी तो excited रखना है. We cannot be dumping them 50 million SOPs and say, now perform. So continuous learning is going to impact both your talent levers, which is your build and also your buy. The ones who come from outside, the borrowed ones, they are anyways ready to run, right? They're, yes, they're short term. Yes, exactly. Venkatraman, thank you. Short term learning. Those are ready to run. They will hit the road running. But the other people are going to create your talent pipeline for the future. Right? So continuous learning is absolutely essential if you want to make sure that in the long run, your costs go down, because getting contractors from the market, or even in organizations like Deloitte, Accenture, when you do interdepartmental borrowing, the person who comes in has to be paid salary from your COE. If your costs have to go down, then your continuous learning initiatives have to be fantastic, not good, fantastic. It has to be so engaging and so in sync with what's happening day to day that will truly make a difference in everybody's lives. In fact, continuous learning will actually impact the KPI of the person who is performing on the job. And the performance of that person is going to impact your KPI as to how well I delivered my return on investment. Okay?
Are you saying
Let's
that
give it.
the next line is prepared for the next future roles?
Of
Something.
course. Of course. So while for future roles, in addition to that, मैंने, let us say, what's the first name on my screen? Ricky is talking to me. So let's say Ricky. So I trained Ricky to perform a certain job on the, perform a certain task on the current job, which he was not doing so great at. Okay. So the supervisor spared him, allowed him pay for 3 days when he was sitting in training. So Tina trained Ricky, gave her case studies, gave us real life examples, aligned a mentor to him, and now Ricky is now ready to perform that job. He goes to the on the job, and then he, let us say, touches 3 items that he has to touch, be it clients, items, whatever you want to say. And he did a slightly better job than what he was doing earlier, but still there are gaps. So what is it a reflection on? One, Ricky still doesn't get a great rating on his job, at least for that month. And Tina is now questioned कि भाई तुमको भेजा तो था, तो there isn't any significant improvement. You get it? This is continuous feedback for Tina. So now next time when Ricky comes to Tina, Tina says, okay, this typical method is not working. Let's try something different with Ricky. So can I borrow a couple of SMEs? Let's understand. Let us do a psychometric. Let us understand what Ricky is instructing. This cycle is going to continue till the time Tina gives up and say Ricky does not have the competence. He is a wrong match for the job. Or we realize that there is a lack of willingness to change. So in case there's a willingness to change lack, our flowchart goes in a different direction, saying that then he needs to be put in a department where his aspirations, his willingness aligns. उस टाइम यही जॉब मिली थी तो उसने इसी के लिए अप्लाई कर दिया and he got into this job. And now actually he doesn't have any intention of doing this job. His always intention was to go into that department. Or the second route can be the training program needs to be improved in a way that it starts impacting people's lives on a day-to-day basis. So it will be continuous refinement of the training program on an iterative basis to be able to make sure that we are able to make faster learning impacts. And all of this feeds into having a learning culture in the organization. Now, how many organizations are willing to invest this much of time, effort, and energy into developing people? Very few. So this is where we talk about having a learning culture aligned with leadership support. Okay, does it make sense? Have I talked too much and confused all of you, or is it following a kind of a path?
Yeah.
Yes, no, maybe?
Little more on this. See,
Okay.
for example, there are two things. One is the training issue, one is the competence issue. If the competence issue is there, obviously the role has to be changed. But if
मारो हायरिंग डिपार्टमेंट को पिटाओ मारो
हाँ।
पकड़ के इधर आओ तुमने क्या लाके दिया ये
No,
okay
but this always happens. You know, this is a permutation combination which keeps
It's a
happening, and
combination.
it's a challenge for LND always.
Yes.
So
Yes.
you keep changing the role. Give it
Yes.
give some role to him which is
Hmm.
maybe more suitable, right?
Yes.
But when you talk about the training gap, then
Yes.
then what?
When we say there is a training gap, then we need to fine tune to find out what type of training is going to fill the gap. It can be simulation, it can be classroom, it can be coaching, it can be shadowing, it can be mentoring, it can be AR, VR,
Probably
it can be setting.
the change method has to be changed. One thing is not working, so apply second.
But you become guinea pigs. The trainees become guinea pigs till the time we find the right fit. And too many iterations might also not be possible in terms of cost. ये क्या तुम्हें ड्रामा लगा रखा है? Every time something doesn't work, तुम लोग नया कुछ try करते रहते हो. So then the trainer has to find out a way that when you get hold of the trainee, क्योंकि ये आसानी से मिलेगा नहीं, let's try 2-3 approaches and get them some direct feedback that is this working? Get your SMEs aligned. Don't just shoot an arrow in the dark. So let us say we do a case study, a simulation, a group-to-group discussion, and then you get the SME to do the final test in the classroom in whatever time I have. This time it's more effective than last time. Now this time Ricky understands and says, yeah, I was not able to make the connection between my day-to-day. Now I'm doing better.
Are you saying that that means that you have a very strong observation on whatever is working for him, and then it's noted?
Yes, we have to have that input on a regular basis, and then only training becomes effective.
Secondly, no, the question comes as a the organization like Genpack, where you got so many people to train, then it becomes very difficult. You know, the volume of people is pretty high, and capturing people on such small things, isn't it a tough task? I don't know. Since you
It's
work,
a tough task. It's a tough task, but that is where there are two types of training departments in Genpack. One is the training department, which is the central training department. And the other training department is aligned with operations. Their job is continuous learning.
Okay.
They get their input from the quality and the NPS data.
That's kind of everyday thing.
That's an everyday thing. They have monthly PKTs.
Okay.
They have monthly training refreshers. They have coaching, mentoring models. People are pulled off the job and put on mentoring for 3 hours every day. Okay. That department is different from the central training department, which runs the larger initiatives.
Okay.
So there is an operational training department, which actually is it's not part, dotted line operations reporting. And then there is the corporate training department, which runs the larger initiatives.
Thanks.
And when the operations department says कि यार बहुत ही ज़्यादा soft skill के issues हैं यार ये तो solve ही नहीं हो रहे, the hiring batch has been really bad, then they write to the corporate department saying that we need a proper dedicated soft skills training for insurance industry or let us say manufacturing vertical. Dedicated हमारे 40 लोग आएंगे, we want this done in 2 days or 3 days. That is where the collaboration happens. But it is also a part of continuous learning. Make sense?
Yeah. Thanks.
Yeah, of course. Let's look at the next bit that we wanted to talk about. So we know the characteristics of continuous learning, learning culture. Now we also want to talk about, so I tricked you into talking about what is continuous learning and what is lifelong learning. In lifelong learning, Most of you nailed it right. It is about the inquisitiveness to keep learning and becoming better in your present job or preparing yourself for future jobs. So let us say somebody comes at a pretty junior position in learning and development, and they decide that, you know what, this whole shebang is not for me. Instead, I would like to specifically sharpen my skills in instructional design. So now, if you are a continuous learning person, you are going to continue getting better at your current job. But when you are a learner for life, you will not stop there. You will make sure that in addition to my present job, I also start preparing for my long aspirations. All right. So that's the difference between somebody being a lifelong learner and somebody participating in continuous learning. Okay. The idea was to encourage these kind of discussions and also bring in a little bit of flavor rather than only going through the training material. And thank you for participating, guys. Let us now look at what is the next thing we want to talk about. How do you build a learning project? Okay. So let's look at the steps. First, assessing the existing learning environment. Then, identifying gaps and weaknesses. Then, learn directly from your employees. Find out what's happening. Where are you struggling? Where are you excelling? Both ways. Compare the gap analysis and then check employee feedback. Okay. For example, yeah, har baar these people keep doing these refreshers. We don't need it. We know it. And we are really doing good at it. We need refreshers on these topics. वो तो तुम कराते नहीं हो. So compare the gap analysis and check for employee feedback. Identify the subject matter experts who can help you. In a soft skills training, a subject matter expert can be the corporate learning team trainer, or it can be somebody who is dealing with customers for a very long time in the organization, is a vintage person whom we can pull out for some time to help the new people or the people who are struggling. So identify your subject matter experts and make sure that they also understand the need that we are trying to cater. Implement new learning processes. And how do you implement new learning processes? By the process that we just spoke about, iteration, improvement, iteration, improvement, iteration, improvement. And your training design keeps getting better every time. And every time you introduce something new. Why? Variety is the spice of life. Everybody likes to keep learning something new. In fact, I would say that after COVID, we all have gone through change fatigue, too much changing, and people are not able to keep up. But even then, when something relevant to your day-to-day life at work changes for better, people welcome that change. Support and promote learning. Implement कर दिया, उसके बाद बोला 8 घंटे काम करो, उसके ऊपर तुम ट्रेनिंग करो, उसके बाद घर जाओ. Will anybody like it? Is it supporting or is it burdening people with training? Now people are going to by default hate L&D and the training department. We are जबरदस्ती काम कराते रहते हैं, ऐसे 8-8 9 घंटे काम कर रहे हैं. So how do you support and promote training? Promotion and supporting are two separate pieces, even though they are mentioned together. Step number 7 is because they work hand in hand. Promoting learning is to make sure that the leaders, the supervisors, the middle management, they understand the importance of it. They know the VFM very clearly when they commit to it. That what will be my benefit and is it worth the trade-off of the production time that I'm going to lose? And supporting learners means that you do not send them and leave them in the lurch. And we are going to talk about a very interesting topic after this, self-directed learning, which primarily talks about the trainer not being there and people taking responsibility of their own learning. But we'll more about that later. But when you support people, you give them opportunities for micro-learning. You give them opportunities to talk to them at off hours. You talk to them at 8 p.m. at night or 5 a.m. in the morning. They have that flexibility to leave a question, leave a doubt, ask for some clarification, ask for a one-on-one session. That is how you support them. So you have people in your department or you make yourself available for those things.
But
Supporting and promoting them. Yes, please go ahead.
support has to do a lot of the process function, where you have to support them with a lot of processes.
Yes.
Where L&D may not have the access to that. So what do you do that?
Exactly. In case you do not have access, that is the time when you go and ask for help. This is where when you are promoting the learning, For example, you are sending out flyers, you are sending out what benefits you will get. You are aligning with your leadership team. You go and put in a request that people are not able to see the impact they are creating on the balance sheet by doing these errors and the financial penalties. They keep hearing about it, but they are not able to join the dots. So what do you do in that case? You ask the finance team for the last P&L, and you might not have access to it, but they have, the leaders have. So they bring that exceptional support that is required for your training program because you've been promoting your programs early. If you're operating in silos, कि ये नया ट्रेनिंग प्रोग्राम है, एक ईमेल निकाल दिया, कोई टिपिकल घिसा पिटा आपका चल रहा है, people will not know what difference you are bringing in. And that is where your alignment, having learning champions and also having learning ambassadors in your audience, training audience, can be at any working level, will help you get that additional support that you require. It will also allow you to do the analysis in the beginning that what are the few things that are out of my scope that I'm trying to impact, but I do not have direct influence. And that is where you have to ask for help. And who can bring you that help? Your leadership support team who have aligned with you as your stakeholders. So I generally go and straight away say that these are the few things that we will not be able to impact effectively if we do not get this additional support. So if you are expecting some major impact after this, kindly help us, or else you will still see results, but they might not be that convincing. So call it out in the beginning. In scope, out of scope, जो हम करते हैं. Then you reward continuous learning. Reward people, those who are showing up for trainings. अब आपने 7 p.m., the shift ends at 6. You said, let's do half an hour of training. Can you all give up half an hour from your lunch? Can we do a mini feed forward session instead of feedback session? Let's do a mini feed forward session. And there are 4 people who said, no, I'm going home. Where the other people who are interested in giving the trainer feedback because they know that the trainer is trying to develop something which will help us. Reward those people in small ways. Put their name on a list. Make sure that you display them or something like that. There are enough and more activities that human resources team does. Rewarding continuous learning begets more and more people into the cycle of continuous learning. Then improve future hiring processes. This we just spoke about in the beginning, so I'm not going to harp more on it. And continuous feedback both ways for the trainers as well as the trainees. And it might actually be for the training process. LMS system kharab hai, trainer badhiya hai, content badhiya hai, trainees badhiya hai. The LMS system needs to be upgraded. That can also be a feedback. So be open to that. If this cycle keeps repeating itself on a regular basis, you are actively building a thriving learning culture. Okay, psychology. What is the difference between surviving and thriving? I love doing these questions.
Thriving is more positive.
Thriving is more positive. Okay, what else?
Surviving is.
सर्वाइविंग इज मैम मजबूरी में कर रहे हैं, थ्राइविंग
Ah,
इज
जी
मजे आ
रहे
रहे
हैं,
हैं.
जी रहे हैं किसी तरीके से dragging by. Have you seen that? I am not able to remember the cartoon in which there is this guy who's being pulled, okay, and he's being pulled and वो ऐसे घिसटता हुआ जा रहा है. That's surviving. Okay? Thriving is when you're dancing and you are happy and you are enjoying, you're excited about what you're doing every day, and you are looking to the future. That's thriving. What happens when you are in touch with somebody who is thriving? You get infected by their happiness. You get infected by what? क्या कर रहा है यार ये? ऐसा कैसे रहता है ये? What is this person trying out? Has this person started a new health program? Have they started, going somewhere? They've got a department change. They've got a boss change. What is this person doing? When you thrive in an organization, you become that champion who thrives instead of survives. You also infect at least 100 people around you. And that includes family. And that's why I said a little bit of philosophy, psychology. Because when you come back happy from work, you can be tired, but you can also be happy along with it. There is a different kind of an aura you emanate, which further inspires and influences people around you to try what you are trying. Let us say you come back from office and there are a group of friends who are sitting, waiting for you. Maybe your wife or your husband is entertaining them. and you just enter office and you say, sorry guys, I'm late. I had a really busy day at work, but maza aa gaya. Now these people work in other organizations. They said, "Hai, tu to aise hi bolti rahe. You always say this maza aa gaya. Aisa kya kar rahe ho tum log?" And let us say that you share a couple of things and you go back to your celebrating the evening together. You never know whom you have inspired to join your organization, because you come back tired from work, but still you are saying, "Mujhe to maza aa gaya." We as learning experts can make that difference at a workspace. Because what will the supervisors do? They are the ones who are also always going to chase targets, give you more and more steep targets, ask more and more from you. They will be compassionate, they will be kind, but they also are looking at targets. And the only way that they can show that there has been a better performance is by amping up either the targets or showing larger financial benefits. But the learning expert is a person with whom people bear their heart. They can be vulnerable. They can also talk about other options and possibilities in the organization, because our reach is supposed to be much wider as compared to what an operations person is. So be that learning ambassador for yourself, for your own department. And that can make a huge difference. Okay, that's my philosophical spiel for today. I promise not to give any more.
May I
We are
request
going
you to kindly explain the 9th step once again?
Okay, one more time. Let's go to it. Here you go.
Very
Putting in the here you go. Okay. First, assessing the existing learning environment. How are people learning? And after that, what kind of gaps and weaknesses they're experiencing? So, what is the status quo of learning? Are people barely learning from SOP? Are they learning through shadowing? Are they learning through a broken system in which a trainer is not involved? पैसे बचा रहे हैं. There's no trainer. An SME is doing a shoddy job, not a great job. So assessing the current learning environment. Identifying the gaps that are being felt on the day-to-day job, the long term as well as short. Also, let us understand what are the weaknesses. For example, people are writing down information on a piece of paper, and then they're referring back to the piece of paper when they're talking to the customer. That's an inherent weakness. What can we enable and empower our people to have so that they don't have to write down things on a piece of paper and everything is available in front of them? Learn directly from your employees. Step number 3. That means receiving feedback from what is working and what is not working without flinching, because many employees are going to say many things that might not be very popular. Pick up what you can from there. Step number 4, compare gap analysis and employee feedback. So when you do a gap analysis that is based strictly on your quality data, financial data, feedback from customers, feedback from end users, feedback from supervisors 360, and then there is the employee feedback. Kuch relevance hai, or is it 180-degree apart? If it is, then there is a problem. Then we are not asking the right questions. And in case there is similarity, what are the places where there is congruence and what are the places where there isn't congruence? Let us kind of sort it out. Step number 5, who are the people who can help us? Let us say that we are working in a manufacturing company that manufactures a certain kind of medicine or a chemical. In that situation, in case the outcome is not proper and batches and batches and batches are getting quality rejected, we need to find out who are the people on the conveyor belt who are messing it up. For that, a trainer like you will not be able to talk about chemical compositions, what need to change, what doesn't need to change, how it needs to happen, what time it needs to happen. You need somebody who has been doing this in and out every day. So go to the labs and find out the guy who will be able to help you. Train these morons better so that they do not do this major financial loss because of which batches after batches after batches are getting rejected in quality control. So find out the right subject matter experts. Implement learning processes. Maybe people were going the lab tour at the end of the training. And after that, they were straight away going and developing the chemical by themselves. What if we had to change the lab visit to the middle of the training so that they come back, they ask questions, they think about how the process works, etc., and maybe they do a shadowing session before they go into full-blown production. So you change your learning process. Then you support them by keeping channels open for them to ask questions before they do blunders. And you promote that this is what we have made changes. Supervisors, we would love to hear any immediate feedback that you would like to share. Are you seeing a change? So your promotion and your support happens together. Then you reward continuous learning. When people come back and give you feedback that, wow, this has started working better and we are feeling more confident, and the number of batches that were being rejected has reduced by 80%. Those people who are giving you that feedback, who are becoming a part of the continuous learning, appreciate them, call them out, reward them in small ways. It can be a quality care function person. He doesn't even participate in your training. He only provides you data. But reward people who contribute to the continuous learning process. Improve future hiring processes. Next time onwards, we should not be hiring people from this place. They're costing us money because we have to train them not once, not twice, but 3 times. So we now know what kind of qualifications we need to look at when we are hiring people and what age group we need to hire. So all of these inputs can come from continuous learning, which refines the job description and allows people to come into the system who are going to contribute to the system much faster and shortens the learning curve. And continuous feedback is something that we just spoke about. It just goes round and round and round. Does this help now?
Thank you very much. It's a great
You're
help.
welcome. All right, now let's look at the challenges. ये तो अच्छी बातें कर ली हमने. What are the challenges? First of all, informal learning. Nowadays, people learn from various different sources, not formal structured learning. So the challenge of building a learning culture is informal learning. Why? It's supposed to be a lever which is going to support us. It sometimes backfires because through informal learning, you get information which might not be 100% correct. And it can confuse people. Resourcing, because there are so many different resources we have to work through, like SMEs, like data dependencies from different departments, etc., etc., and also people whom we are getting into the system, we have to also take into consideration that there will be effective time and effort involved in resourcing of these people, everything coming together. It's like a well-laid dinner table requires a lot of resources to come together magically and miraculously to deliver all those flavors. Then there is leadership buying problems because it's very expensive. It's expensive to an extent that people would say, "Arey, this is going to cause a lot of production loss. We'll not be able to release people for so long. क्यों चाहिए तुम्हें इतने देर लोग? Why can't you fix it at the first go? Why do you have to do this again and again? ये बंद करो यार, one time." So not all organizations are committed to continuous learning. And in absence of continuous learning, your learning culture will fail. And then there is administrative problems, tracking, maintaining a log. Incremental progress tracking is something that everybody struggles with in absence of LMS. How do you continuously track learning? Organizations like we just spoke about, Genpact or Accenture, have well-documented, well-oiled machines where regular basis feedback, performance is tracked. Think of smaller organizations. Do they have that kind of machinery? Do they have those kind of digital technology that will allow them to access that? The answer may be no. So in that situation, building a learning culture is going to take a lot more effort and a lot more time. It is possible in every organization, big or small. I've seen small organizations do a fantastic job of building a learning culture, but it takes commitment, it takes leadership buy-in, it requires to make sure that when people are learning from each other, informal learning is happening, but it is happening with the right stakeholders. There is some moderation. Otherwise, there is a chance of wrong information being circulated. So those are some of the challenges of building a learning. I promise that I'm going to take you through self-directed learning, but before I'm just 2 slides, not too much so, because that's why I kept it for the end. But I also want to talk about what do you mean by self-directed learning. So let's ask you, what do you mean by self-directed learning? What is your thought?
It is something which we do at our own pace, our own convenience.
You do it at your own pace. वो तो normal learning भी करते हैं, self-directed के साथ normal learning क्या करते हैं?
So taking charge of your own career, Yukari goals.
Taking charge. So learning can be, I'm just reading this. Is there an outcome to this? Is there a measurement to this? Is there a purpose to it? You are reading Johnny Depp's divorce proceedings, which is like 3,000 pages long. People are reading it with interest. Is there an outcome to it? Is there a direct correlation to my career goals to it? Is there a direct correlation to what I do on the job? Is there a direct correlation on my performance? If I am enabling self-directed learning for you in Udemy, are you going and doing a pottery class? Or are you actually picking up a course which is going to impact the learning on the job? So self-directed learning gives you autonomy, gives a personalized learning path, but it also requires a little bit of moderation. So let's first understand the benefits that everybody gets from self-directed learning. And then we'll look at what are the disadvantages that people struggle. And the benefits, we'll look at all the three parties involved: the learner, the trainer, and the organization. Okay? So let's look at it. So I've tried to dummy it down for everybody because sometimes I do get feedback that, oh, हमें किसी ने बताया नहीं, we didn't know, you assume that you know. So self-directed learning definition: learning where an individual takes responsibility of their own learning, deciding what they learn, setting their own goals, and choosing which strategies work best for them. What are the characteristics? Learner autonomy, personalization, continuous learning, of course, and that's why we did continuous learning discussion before this. What are the characteristics of somebody whom I can trust with learning by themselves? Not everybody is ready for self-directed learning. Who are the people whom we can trust with self-directed learning? People who show high levels of motivation and engagement, ability to set personal learning goals and pursue them independently, proficiency in identifying and sourcing relevant learning materials, and capacity for self-assessment and reflection. Now, by listening to all this English, I also want to ask you, if I had to ask, who are the people, at what level of an organization will you trust people with self-directed learning? What will your answer be?
Senior leadership.
Leadership.
Leadership and middle management also.
Yep.
To some extent.
Basically, the stakeholders.
Basically, the stakeholders who own their learning in an organization, who know कि time नहीं है निकल के जाने का. Either we go for workshops or conference, or else we have to learn on the job. खुद ही सीखना पड़ेगा, हमें तो कोई नहीं पढ़ाएगा. So you set up your own learning goals and you improve yourself. Because even within the organization, subject matter expert है ही नहीं, हमें कौन पढ़ाएगा? इन लोगों को तो पढ़ा रहे हैं जो गधे हैं. They are doing the work on a day-to-day basis. But who are the ones who are going to help us? So as a learning expert, if you are responsible for middle management training and development, what will you do? You will get experts from outside. People who will stimulate them. People who will challenge them. People who will give them something new. Or else what you can do is, you can engage them in group learning, peer-to-peer learning, but वो भी कितना करोगे? So when you pick up topics that are going to impact their personal and aspirational goals, इसका input कहाँ से आएगा? Your individual development plan, the conversations that these people have with their supervisors over a period of time. So you give them these goals, saying that at your own time, at your own expense, you are welcome to pursue this self-directed learning. Okay? Now let's look at the benefits. These are some of the benefits. Look at the benefits. First of all, for learners, you get enhanced autonomy and control. Then you get increased flexibility. Then what is the other one? Learner centricity. Then ownership and responsibility. This is for learners. For L&D teams, for people like you and me. Catalyst for efficiency. It frees up time from traditional learning management tasks. तुम करो अपना संभालो यार तुम. Strategic value addition. It shifts the role of L&D from managing to strategically enhancing learning experiences. for the businesses or the organization. Fosters continuous learning culture, promotes specialization, motivates employees to specialize in their roles, and then improves overall performance. But with all these benefits, there are some downsides also, which are quite perceptible. There is lack of structure. राम जाने क्या कर रहा है, कैसे पढ़ रहा है बंदा, सीख भी रहा है, नहीं सीख रहा है. Then there is lack of support. Because it's self-directed learning, it's generally videos and content, etc., etc. Sometimes asking questions or discussing something can become a challenge because there isn't a live trainer available. Then there is considerable time and effort commitment. अब मैंने तुम्हारे सर पर डाल दिया self-directed learning. You have a full 8-hour job which actually takes 14 hours in a day. How do you manage the time and effort required? Then there is difficulty in assessing progress. आपने आके मुझे completion certificate दिखा दिया. How do I know it really made a difference? I don't really know. There's a lot of trust involved. Then there's different exposure to limited exposure to different perspectives. What do we mean by that? The different perspectives get exchanged when you are in a classroom. For example, Ricky said something, or Pradeep said something, or Shivani said something. There are different perspectives that are going on in the classroom. I disagree, I agree. Oh, मेरे लिए तो ये काम नहीं करता. All of that is missing when you are in a self-directed training. You're totally trusting the learner to navigate their own learning journey. And of course, this seamlessly leads into the next one, which says limited social interaction. Now, like in all slides, I have a favorite word on this slide, which is called learner centricity. Well, let's hash it out a little bit. We have time. What do you mean by learner centricity? अरे लर्निंग है, ट्रेनर है, तो लर्नर सेंट्रिक ही तो होगा. और कैसे होगा? Is there any other centricity? But then still we are saying learner centricity. What do we mean by that?
Keeping the learner at the center, understanding the needs and delivering the session accordingly.
तो लर्नर को कॉर्नर में कब रखते हैं?
नहीं मतलब assess needs करने का उसके basis पे we deliver the content which is there.
So let's understand a situation where the learner is not at the center. Give me some disasters where the learner is not at the center, and how will you commit those disasters?
We might have a
चाहिए
training
X
program where
लेकिन आपने Y deliver कर दिया. So
हाँ,
it's like
sorry.
learning.
Hmm, hmm.
So you were supposed to deliver X content to the learner and then you delivered a Y.
Why
Which
would you do that? You're not stupid, are you?
because we didn't set the learner at the center, and then we didn't set the goal before putting learners into the training program. This happened many
गोल भी
times. You
छोड़ो, गोल भी छोड़ो. हमने क्या नहीं किया? It's a very good.
gap analysis.
need
You
and
did not do the gap analysis.
Gap analysis, yeah.
कोई चलते फिरते कॉरिडोर में तुम पानी की बोतल भरने जा रहे थे, and somebody met you along the way and said, यार क्या कर रहे हो यार, कैसे बंदे भेज रहे हो आजकल तुम ट्रेनिंग, यार तुम लोग कुछ काम वाम नहीं कर रहे हैं, इसको कराओ यार, इनका ट्रेनिंग कराओ, मैं बता रहा हूँ, इट्स गोइंग टू कॉज ट्रबल. Very soon somebody is going to come and fire you. You get panic. You quickly conjure something up from your toolbox and you deliver a training. And people are like, "Whoa, why are we doing this now?" This happens. The other one is not choosing the right audience. The training might be right. The audience is wrong. तुम सीनियर लोग ले आए हो, उन सबको पता है ये सब चीजें. 4 जूनियर लोग हैं, 10 सीनियर लोग हैं. सीनियर लोगों का कंटेंट आप या तो जूनियर को दे रहे हो, जूनियर लोगों का कंटेंट सीनियर को दे रहे हो. So what did you not do right? Audience analysis. If the audience analysis is wrong, you should not be selling watermelons to people who hate watermelons or who know how to make watermelon juice. उनको तुम बताओ watermelon क्या होता है? अरे, we know all this. Tell us something new. Not putting the learner in the center, not validating the feedback, not accommodating the learning styles. You get a subject matter expert who is 63 years old, a master in his field, and he comes and he says, today we are going to talk about the various nuances of improving encouragement and excitement at a workplace. I have 43 years of experience. Yes, you have. But the people whom I have in the room, and one not of that age group, number two, they do not learn the way you are about to teach them. Oh my God, he's opening slides, and guess how many slides he has? 322. Kya karoge? You're not putting the learner at the center. This happened to me, by the way. And I'm like, oh my God. I came excited to this seminar. Another one, when I say seminar or conferences, pointless seminar conferences पर लोगों को भेज दिया, pointless. Yes, seat खाली है, तू चला जा. He went or she went, had a great breakfast, sat there and looked around and said, कुछ समझ नहीं आ रहा क्या हो रहा है. Then you go to the restroom, you talk to friends in the bathroom, and then you run away from the seminar after the snacks. You finish the snacks. And after the snacks, you go home, 4 बज रहे, snacks हो गया, traffic नहीं मिलेगा, घर चली जाती. Not putting the learner at the center. But then what was the checkmark activity? We send people to training conferences. We send people to workshops. We're a great organization. Learning team is also taking credit. Yes, yes, yes. Penetration, number of learning hours. But is it really making a real difference? It isn't. How many people do horrible corporate social responsibility initiatives and do tom-tom about it? How many people here have experienced it? बेकार का corporate social responsibility का initiative ले लिया. It didn't really have any corporate social responsibility outcome, but it became a checkmark activity. So what I'm trying to say is that if you do not put your learner at the center, your training initiatives will always be a checkmark activity. It will not create the desired impact. And guess what happens when a learning and training department does not create an impact? It only banks upon the glory of pretense that हमने ये किया है, वो किया है. What happens is exactly what has happened in today's world. How many organizations have a learning and training department? The departments have been fired. Now, yes, this waste happens almost everywhere. The moment performance pressure is high in all the company, thank you, Amit. Actually, this is a very relevant point. Elimination happens because people do not see the value. And for you as a learning expert to deliver that value, learner at the center, you be in sync with what's happening in the world. अंधा फट्टी बात के मत रहो कि क्या हो रहा है. Don't operate in silo. Know what's happening. Know what's happening on the ground and be available to the people for improvement. The ones who are struggling in your day-to-day jobs, whose job is not training, they do not know how to train. They can show, they can help you shadow, they can coach, they can mentor. But the structure of learning, the ecosystem has to be built by you. And that ecosystem is now replaced with the fancy word called learning culture. All right. So that's that. I believe I do not have anything else to share today, but I thought it would be an interesting topic. I doubt it is there in your book, but I also wanted to ask you something. Yeah, that's what I had to cover today. Okay. I also wanted to ask something. Did you guys do an extensive understanding of learning objectives and learning measurements, ROI? I believe you haven't, have you? In the other papers, not in this paper.
Last semester we did, ma'am.
Okay.
In instructional designing paper, sir took the entire, I think, the lecture on it. Goals,
So learning
objectives,
objectives समझ आ गया.
goals, objectives, and measurements at that time.
आपने किया हुआ है. Good, good, good. Because I was about to do a very extensive session on that because in your management, in your book, it has a section on learning objectives. Somehow I thought I will first check with you because I don't want to repeat things that you have already done because it can cause confusion. This is not there in your book, but this will be a regular day-to-day helpful thing, I hope, on your job for you to implement and exercise. Okay? Now I'm going to pause for questions. In case there are no questions, I can give you 15 minutes back. Any questions? Yes, Ricky, go ahead.
Well, since we were talking about the inside the organization, how training happens, let's talk about outside the organization. When I'm a training vendor, let's suppose, for example, I'm doing training for Mercedes.
Big one. Okay, go ahead, go ahead.
I'm doing it for Mercedes. Now, training system in company like Mercedes or Toyotas are well laid out. But what happens in the dealerships, which are actually the basically the small channel partners, they are also the big organizations in terms of, because you have almost 600 crore or plus turnover each dealership has. There are inside the organization, there are not trainings which are happening. Now, what happens is if I have to take the data for Toyota or Mercedes, I can take it from the net, and I can talk about that. Talking about these dealerships, now, if I have to validate these data, that how these trainings can be effective, how should we get it out? How can we take that out? Because there's no way you get information out of these organizations. Reason being, uh, there's always, people don't like you to, they won't even disclose the data. So you won't come to know. Talking about these corporate companies, everything is published or you can find out from them. But what about these organizations? How to approach
First of all, who is paying for this training?
the dealership?
The dealership is paying.
Yeah.
The dealership would always want to outperform the other dealership, correct? There's a
Yes, there's a
profit.
competition involved.
So there are two kinds of trainings, and I'm making a big assumption. Stop me if I'm wrong. There were two kinds of trainings that you will have to do. One that is mandated by Toyota, कि ये तो करना ही करना है तुम सबने. And there are some trainings that the dealership has identified कि हमारे बंदे गध हैं, तुमको इनको help कर दो. And the dealership number 1 and dealership number 2 and dealership number 3, they will all have different kind of requirements. Okay. So how do you validate the person who is calling the other person gadha, if the person is actually gadha or not? Now, before you get in or you get the deal, you will not be able to validate. I have bad news. But once you say, अच्छा ठीक है मैं करता हूँ, and you get into the organization, there are three ways that specifically in these kind of setups you can get information. Number one, remember your sponsor is extremely important in these kind of setups. So I'm going to say something which is unpopular, and before that I am going to okay, yeah, here you go.